there's an old expression that says it takes a village. And usually that expression is used when one is talking about a community effort or an initiative in a neighborhood or a group or a city or a state or a country that they're trying to address an issue that could be either negative or positive, but the concept is that in order to really get something done in many instances, everybody has to be involved. Too often in our country and in our community, people just kind of sit back and, and complain and make observations and do editorials or what have you, and then that's the end of it. But in order to really address some issues in many instances, then it takes like community involvement. I'm happy today to have with me the High Sheriff of Bibb County, Mr. David Davis, who in fact is responsible for the protection and safety of our community. And we want to talk to him about many of the things that are going on in the community and many of the things that the community can do in order to assist him. This is a call to action.
A call to action.
A call to action. I'm your host, Alex Halberstam. And as I said, I have with me Sheriff David Davis. How you doing, Sheriff?
Doing fine, Alex. Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I don't envy you this time with the job that you have to do in this community with a whole lot that's going on. But I praise you,
thank you
for your efforts to try to keep the community safe and protected. So let's talk about a lot of things. We're going to start on a positive note.
All right.
Let's talk about the initiatives and the programs and the projects that you have going on as we speak in order to supplement, if you please, the protection and safety of the community.
We have a lot of projects, and it's good that you talk about that. We're in the process of developing a resource guide that talks about the programs that the Sheriff's Office has. We have one of our largest programs is our CHAMPS program, which is Choosing Healthy Activities and Methods Promoting Safety. This month in May, we're going to graduate almost 2,000 fifth and some sixth graders throughout the public and private schools that have been a part of that program throughout the school year. So ever since 2014, we've graduated almost 6,000 youngsters in that program. We have our PAL, our Police Athletic League. Those are ramping up for the summertime. So our CHAMPS camps coming up in the summertime. So we're always engaged and reaching out to our community to make that difference. And so that's what it's all about, and that's the crux of it. I mean, part of what we do is law enforcement, and that is the largest part. But if you're not involved and not trying to affect these young people where they are, when they are, you're gonna do it at your own peril. So we're trying to make that difference to intercede as early as we can.
And it's called prevention.
Prevention, yes, sir.
Yeah,
yes,
because that plays a major role in it. So you're talking about what the Sheriff Department is doing. Let's talk a little bit about what the community can do. The churches, the nonprofits, the fraternities and sororities. Because as I did in my introductory statement, as I said, it takes a village.
It does.
And the thing that concerns me sometimes is that, people may sit back and make observations, but then everybody has to be involved because we all are part of the community.
That's right.
So talk about what, in your opinion, the community can do, the organizations, the institutions, and the individuals.
I think everybody can do something. With some of the things that we're seeing going on in our community, some of the violence and some of the bad things are happening. You'll hear the cynics and you'll hear the people who have given up saying, "There's nothing you can do about that. There's nothing that we can do about that. There's nothing law enforcement. There's nothing that we can do about that." Well, the day that you say that there's nothing you can do is the day that you're giving up, and the day that you're so to speak dying, because there's always something you can do, and we're always pushing forward at the Sheriff's Office. But the community organizations need to coordinate. The churches, the helpful organizations need to coordinate with each other for plans. I know people have foundations and those kinds of things to have a coordinated effort to reach into some of these blighted neighborhoods. And on an individual basis, if they do nothing other than to become involved in their local school, whether you have kids in the school or not, become involved. I was at an event. We partner with an organization called Bookham. Katie Powers is the leader of that group, and through the sheriff's office, we partnered with them to start this organization called Bookham, to where that we give books to school children when we go out on our community engagements. We give books. They have school programs. So we was at an event yesterday at Bruce Elementary giving out books, and there are people from the community who came in and read to those school children, and that's what it takes, and these role models to come in. So if you say as an individual, there's nothing I can do, yes, there is. There's something you can do. There's something you can do, and it doesn't cost anything to go read to the school children, and they'd be happy to have you.
Right, and I noticed last week or maybe the week before that you even, put your feet on the street.
Yep.
Even went into communities.
Yep.
Talk about that.
That is a very crucial part of what we do, and that going out, it's walking season. The weather's warmed up. And maybe we beat the raindrops and that sort of thing. But that's what takes us to the community to hear what their concerns are. And yes, believe it or not, there is a law enforcement purpose in that. There's law enforcement advantages to that, because when we're walking the street, you can see a lot more walking down the street than you can riding down the street in a car going 35, 40 miles an hour. So when we engage with the community members, they tell us what's happening. They tell us of suspicious activity. When we're walking, we look, and with our trained eye, we look at a house and we can say, there's something nefarious going on at that house. Or you see things that cause you to have some concerns, so we follow up. We also see these blighted lots, blighted properties, and if it's something that we can help, we'll send our inmate work crews to go in there and clean it up. So we have a comprehensive approach, but it is also from the nexus of gathering actionable information that we can use in a law enforcement setting. We do that too, and it's to help the neighbors, because they tell us of suspicious activity and things. But it's also over and above that chance to connect.
Well, I'm glad you kind of say that. Now let me ask you this: what if, in fact, an organization or an individual is interested, and maybe they'll see or hear this show and say, well, there's an old expression that says, if it is to be, it's up to me.
Yeah,
and maybe somebody will take that attitude and say, well, maybe I can do something. And you just said everybody can do something.
That's right.
It takes a village.
It does.
So how would one ascertain information on what he or she can do to be an organization or a group or an individual, nonprofit, you name it? I mean, what if they need some direction and or some help?
They can call us. They can call my office. They can call my office directly at 478-621-5629. We will connect them with our outreach section, or connect them with whatever section that oversees what they want to get involved in. If it's something that we may not be a part of our program offerings, we maybe connect them to maybe something that a church is doing, maybe something that another community organization is doing. So there's always ways to connect, but it takes making that one phone call. It takes making that first phone call, that first outreach or reach out to someone to help connect you into the community.
Give that number again.
This is directly to my office. It's 478-621-5629.
Okay.
So
I've heard a lot of talk, about neighborhood association. associations. Is that under your purview?
Well, now you have neighborhood associations, of which there are many in Macon Bibb.
Those are the ones I'm talking about.
Yeah, now those neighborhood associations are really unto themselves. You know, they're almost like homeowner associations.
Okay.
And they have their own. A lot of them have these Google groups that they go into, and they transfer information and let people know things are happening in the neighborhood. Now we have neighborhood watch groups that we're scattered all throughout Macon Bibb in every corner of the county, that we have neighborhood watch groups, and those neighborhood watch groups frequently overlap with the neighborhood association organizations, to where that many of the same people are involved in both entities. But our neighborhood watch program is coordinated through the sheriff's office through Miss Judy Gordon, and she does an excellent job of coordinating through that. Plus, we have a online piece for folks. Some folks don't have time to go to meetings and go to the neighborhood watch meetings. We have our sheriff's office email update program that pushes out emails to the recipients, and we have over 3,000 people on that particular email list. Plus, we have our social media with Facebook and all those things. So we have ways to connect.
That's another avenue to get involved.
All,
you know, you
yes.
could join a neighborhood association,
Yes.
because there is either a neighborhood watch program or a neighborhood association organization
Exactly.
close to you.
That's right. In every
Close to
neighborhood.
wherever you are.
That's right, exactly.
So that's another way to get involved. Well, you know, there have been a lot of conversations about the recent homicides, and you know, one of the things, and you feel free to address this. This is a call to action.
A call to action.
Call to action.
I'm your host, Alex Habershaman, interviewing the High Sheriff, Mr. David Davis, and we're going to talk a little bit about the homicides, you know, and Sheriff. They said, well, what is the sheriff doing? You know, why can't the sheriff stop all these homicides and these killings? And I'm sure that you want to address that, you know, and I know you're concerned about it, and I know that there are factors. So let's talk a little bit in depth about these homicides, because I'm sure that there are threads that run through these actions on the part of these young people, and there are several, but you know, I don't want to editorialize on them. You know, everybody got an opinion, and because one thing I try to do is to be involved. That's why I'm having you on this show.
Thank you.
You know, and so talk some about the homicides and the threads that run through the profiles, if you please.
Yeah.
The similarities on the individuals, both the perpetrators and the victims, you know, of these homicides.
Well, and of all the homicides we've had this year, there's a common thread that runs through every one of them. It's this lack of economic and educational opportunity. This blighted conditions create blighted minds, which creates blighted actions. And you add a firearm in that, and you have a recipe for disaster. Now, law enforcement, our folks do a good job of finding the suspects, making the arrests, solving these crimes. Many times, law enforcement, if I had 10,000 deputies, I could put a deputy in everybody's front yard, and they'd be shooting in the backyard. We have a situation happened earlier this year where a brother choked his sister to death. Those things, how can you police those type of tragic incidents? It's hard to police many of these law enforcement situations because they're spur of the moment actions. Somebody did somebody on Facebook. Somebody has said something about seeing some guy's girlfriend. Those kinds of personal slights, personal relationships gone bad, and then you add those conditions I talked about: the blighted mind, the blighted conditions, the lack of hope, the feeling that nobody cares about them, and you add a firearm into that mix, and you're going to get disaster. We're reaping the harvest of many years of neglect in certain communities in this city and county, and that's what we as law enforcement, me as a person that grew up here in Macon Bibb, it's heartbreaking. It is just heartbreaking, and it is troubling. But you see those common threads. We see it is commonly African Americans shooting African Americans. Of the 17 homicides we had this year, 16 of them involved African Americans, except the most recent one, the gentleman that we found out in Lizella last week. Now that was a white person, and we've following up some leads on that. But they all have some nexus of some type of personal conflict or personal interaction. And people ask, how about gangs? Are gangs involved in this? Is this a result of gang warfare? Well, many of these individuals are in gangs, but the gang itself, their mere being in a gang is not what causes a conflict. It's something more personal. We have people who are in the same gang who will shoot each other.
Wow, that's very well. You said that most of the incidents are attributable to blighted situations, and we talked about the community involvement. What do you think? I want to ask you, what do you think the community can do? But let's also talk about first, and maybe this will motivate individuals to be involved. Let's talk about the negative effect that it has on our community as it relates to schools and growth, and and really, Sheriff, it kind of bothers me, frankly, that too often we accentuate and emphasize the negative. Mm-hmm. Like I saw, in the paper this morning, 232 calls to the school system. Yeah. I guess it's during this year. I don't know whether it was this year or last year, but I didn't get a chance to read the whole story. Well, that may be true. But by the same token, I also saw a press release on the valedictorians and the salutatorian, all these young people who get $10,000 and $20,000 scholarships. Yeah. And that's another reason why we all need to kind of be involved. So talk about the negative effect of, of the publicity and the lack of the negative publicity and the lack of positive publicity. Like a lot of people don't even know about the CHAMP program, in the police athletic leagues, and book them. Yeah. And those are good things that just like the entire community knows that we had 17 homicides, the entire community should know, about, what they can do and the negative effect of so talk about how that affects our community negatively.
It does, all these things, and people, if it bleeds, it leads. They accentuate the negative because that's what's going to sell the newspapers. But when you think about it in that context, the reason that it sells newspapers, the reason that it does that is because even as much as we hear about it, it is something out of the ordinary. 232 calls to the school system. While that seems like a lot, how many thousands of kids are in the school system? 17 homicides. We have nearly 160,000 people living in Macon and Bibb County. And there are way more good people than there are bad. So when the bad people do bad things, people say, that's news. That's the thing that we accentuate. But then people magnify that, and then people become to make a community be identified by that. And that's what happens a lot in Macon. And Macon, I've said this a lot of times, Macon seems to have a grudge against itself, and it isn't recent. It's been going on for as long as I can remember. People talk about Macon. Macon has got crime. Macon has got blight. Macon has got this and that. Yes, it does. And we are all concerned about that. But Macon has good things. Macon has a lot of good people who are contributing greatly to this community and the world around us. But the news, and I don't know if there's anything you and I can do to change the focus of the news, and that's very troubling. And I see troubling signs in news both locally and on the national level. We see what's happening on the national level. And I really do believe that it is almost the Trumpification of news. Because think about it, you have a president who will say anything, doesn't really care what anybody thinks about him, has no sense of decorum, whether you're for him or against him. I'm not arguing that. I'm arguing the behavior
Right.
of how someone conducts themselves. Well, when you have people that see that type of activity, and that gives others license to behave the same, and we see it on the other side, the people who want to call attention to the things they do, they use some of the same tactics as he used. So you see that on a national level, and you see it start floating down even to the local level of that type of behavior towards news and that type of behavior towards each other. Look at how people treat each other on social media.
Yeah, that's right. Well, maybe we should. We need to tell the community out there to spread, to do with good news like they do the gospel.
That's
they need
right.
to spread.
There you go. What is the gospel but the good news? Think about it. Spread the gospel
Yeah.
of what you're doing in the
Yeah.
community.
Yeah. And,
talk about those things.
And for example, talking about our community, we got water, we got roads, we the best location in the southeast.
We are.
We got colleges and universities.
Yeah.
We got a rowing downtown. You can hardly get a loft downtown.
That's right.
People lined up, to get them. And like I said, we've got education. So there are a lot of good things, and I think that what we need to do, and you can make the appeal to the community and to the organization to get involved. The churches, the fraternities, the sororities, even the people who are in neighborhood watch. We need to rejuvenate and reinvigorate, and there's an old expression that says, "Don't just stand there, do something."
That's right.
So
That's right.
just kind of make that appeal to the community.
Well, get out there, get involved, do something. We're getting ready to what we had been calling National Night Out. This year we're going to call it Night to Unite. We're going to do it a little bit later in the year. It's so hot in August, everybody's like, man, why we do it in August? We're going to do it a little bit later in October when it's a little bit cooler, get people involved in that. So it's an opportunity for people to get out and get involved with law enforcement, with their neighbors. But throughout the summer months, throughout the rest of the time, find a way to get involved. If you can't go read to kids at school, if you can't get involved in some of our activities and camps, find a worthy
Tell your pastor.
support.
Tell your pastor
to get out and do
So let's
things.
do something.
Let's
Let's do
do
something in this church.
That's right. Let's do
Because
something.
they got
Get 2 or 3 churches together to do some things.
Yeah.
And while the sheriff's office has a lot of programs, we're intimately and very much involved in the community. The sheriff's office doesn't need to be involved in everything everybody's doing that is good. Take it on yourself to go out there and do some good things. Go out there and have a little carnival in the parking lot. Go out and read to kids in some of these blighted areas. I heard where they're going to be doing a reading event downtown over Memorial Day weekend, and this is downtown. That's a great idea. It's going to bring folks downtown.
Right.
But how about going out off of Houston Avenue and do a reading event? How about go down into Bloomfield and have a reading event? If you're scared to go down there, we'll go down there with you.
Yes, sir.
But sit down with a kid, because when we go on these neighborhoods and our neighborhood walks, these kids just flock to us, and we give them books, we give them school supplies, and there's a larger part of Macon than just some places.
Absolutely, and that is absolutely true. Well, I want to talk a little bit more, though, because I think National Night Out, although it's in October, well, let me mention this to you first. The Community Foundation is putting together an initiative called On the Table.
On the Table. I'm familiar with that.
Yeah,
yes.
and then I think that's going to be a good thing. There's going to be a press release about it tomorrow where the concept is to get people, not necessarily family and friends, but people to sit around the table and talk about initiatives and efforts and what can be done in order to make this a better community. Now, the goal is for 7,500 people. You know, to sit down, and then it doesn't have to be a steak dinner. It could be over
Yeah, hot
dessert
dog.
or
That's right,
anything,
that's
but
right.
just get people
That's
together
right.
to sit down and talk about issues. And I know that there will be more information coming out, and I know
Yeah.
that your organization is going to be involved in
That's
that.
right.
So
We look forward to it.
That's going to be an important thing. How about if somebody want to become a sheriff deputy?
Please come on down. We're about 80 deputies short. We need people. Come on down. We have a full recruiting staff. We have 2 people that do nothing but recruiting all the time. And so contact us, and you can go online and go to Macon Bibb Human Resources, see the application there. You can call my office. That number I had before is 478-621-5629. We will connect you up with one of our recruiters, and they can explain all the process to you. But it's a great career choice, and it helps you
With benefits?
With benefits, comparable pay. We're competitive with the other agencies in our region. It's a full service law enforcement agency, so all the things that you see those police shows do on TV, we can do it here. And anything that you want to get involved in, we'll be happy to assist you to start a career in law enforcement.
How can a person find out more about National Night Out? Because like on the table, that National Night Out is a vehicle for everybody to get involved.
Get involved. That number again, 478-621-5629. We'll connect you with our outreach section with Judy Gordon, who's coordinating this event. So if you want to get involved in that, please call, and then we'll connect you up.
Well, I'm going to repeat an expression that I made a few minutes ago. Don't just stand there. Do something. Get involved. And like Nike says, just do it. You got a minute to do a part statement and say whatever you want to the community and the audience.
Well, as Alex said, just get out there and do something. Make a difference in this community, whether you get involved with the school, whether you get involved with a neighborhood association, neighborhood watch event, whether you do it through your church, or whether you want to come and be a part of our organization and have a job as a deputy sheriff. You can do something. There are a multitude of programs and examples that you can get involved to make a positive difference in this community.
This is a call to action.
A call to action.
I'm your host, Alex Havisham, having interviewed Mr. David Davis, the High Sheriff of Macon Bibb County. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Godspeed and blessings to you.
Thank you.
And keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir. Happy to be here.
Have a great day.
Thank you.